But what about his overall performance today for you, Darren? Did he change your opinion? Because early on you said you believe Henderson should be given the starting nod by Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
No, he didn't change my opinion, to be honest. He started very sloppy. I think we showed a few of his sloppiness at half-time. He just never fills me with confidence. And Danny might say, as a defender, you want it. He has done before. He's been a world-class goalkeeper, but I think last season and already the start of this season, he's already making mistakes. And I think that's affecting him. And the problem he has, when you've got a player like Dean Henderson itching to play, who's a very, very confident player, how long do you give it? How long do you give it before you make that change? And he's already started sloppy. If he has another 1 or 2 games, perhaps that's the opportunity that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is looking for, to get Dean Henderson back in the team, because he won't stick around to be number 2 for me.
I think one of the things is, as well, Adam, is that when you look at competition, you either thrive off it or it makes you feel a little bit nervous. You know, I've played with players that love the fact that there was somebody breathing down their neck to try and take their position. But I've also played with players before that didn't like it, and it actually made them more nervous and, you know, likely to make mistakes. And I just wonder what this is going to do to De Gea, because everybody's spoken about Henderson, you know, coming into United's team and, you know, being the first choice. The simple fact that he's not been allowed to go out on loan, the fact that he's signed a huge new contract as well. If you look at it over recent seasons, I wouldn't say De Gea has had that natural competition. He's always known that he's been first choice by a distance. Now that's not the case. It's how he reacts to that, and he'll go one of 2 ways. He'll either step up his game, or, as we saw today, maybe the nerves will start to set in a little bit, as they did in particular early on in the game.
It's a bit similar
to the stage now as well, where he's making saves that he should make, and people are giving him so much praise, saying, well, he's still a great shot stopper. But this is David De Gea. The one in the first half of Ayew, it was a basic save that most goalies in the Prem would save, but it's looked upon as a worldy save. It's not, and I think, like you said, that Dean Henderson breathing down his neck is affecting him, and I think he knows 1 or 2 more bad games, he could potentially be out of the team.
It's interesting you put it like that, because I look at Real Madrid last year. Areola came and he was on loan at Real Madrid, but it seemed to up Courtois' game. He suddenly became, again, one of the world's best keepers, perhaps after letting his standard slips. But can I also ask, when it comes to De Gea, are we clouding our mind with his ability? Because if you look and if you believe in the concept of XG, the 2017-2018 season, the XG for De Gea was 14. That means he was stopping 14 shots that were expected to be goals, which is way above the normal. But if you look at his XG and his overall stats since, it's much more average compared to the rest of the Premier League keepers. We're not getting a plus 14, maybe just plus 2 or 3 instead. Are we judging him too high by his own standards, Darren, as opposed to judging him on the standards of the rest of the keepers in the Premier League?
Well, yeah, perhaps by his own standards, yeah. I think, like you said, 2 seasons ago, he was world class, you know, and you can't take that away from him. And we're not saying out the team after 2-3 bad games. This has been a season and a half where he's not looked himself. And is this his new self? You know, he's obviously grown old. There was talks that he was going to leave. Did that affect him at the time? And like we said, the big thing, like Danny said, is the goalkeeper breathing down his neck. He hasn't reacted well to that, and he's losing confidence. And you can physically see it. The first half, when he tried to play one out and played it straight to McCarthy, that is just unlike him, and he's making errors that he shouldn't be making.
Generally speaking, historically, Danny, as well, it's one thing to have outfield positions have another player come in to threaten them, because an outfield player might be able to play in another position. You're not going to get a goalkeeper suddenly playing as a centre-back just because there's another goalkeeper there. There can only be one on the pitch for a side throughout the whole 90 minutes. That does not change. And historically speaking, having 2 keepers who are of a great standard competing like this might not actually pan out if you look at what's happened in the past. I mean, could it backfire on Manchester United?
I don't necessarily think it will backfire. I think this next coming week's going to be interesting in itself, because let's not forget it's the Carabao Cup next week and Henderson will play. He'll play against Luton away. I think it's on Tuesday. So he will play, and if he performs well, if there's questions asked of him and he answers all those questions, then Solskjaer does have a decision to make. I think regardless of what happens, if you're looking forward towards the end of this season, both the goalkeepers will not be here at the start of next season. I think this is a season when it's going to define who is going to be the number one. I think the future will be Henderson, but what will be in Solskjaer's mind is, well, how long will Henderson wait to be the number one? And what I can see eventually happening, whether it be in the summer or well, not sooner, but probably next summer, does De Gea go back to Spain? Because, we know that he was close to going to Real Madrid a few seasons ago. But I just feel that Henderson's going to get his opportunity. And I think Solskjaer will look at him and go, right, okay, you have your opportunity and you take it, then, it's yours to lose. Because I think that if we fast forward now to next weekend and all of a sudden Henderson's in goal, I don't think you will get many people going, wow, that's a huge decision. And that tells you a lot of what you need to know about the situation at the moment.
Have Manchester United dug themselves into a hole, do you feel, Darren, by giving De Gea such big money, though? Would it have been an easy decision to make to put Henderson in, as you think it should be the case, if he wasn't on astronomical fees? Because let's not forget, it's a long-term contract. De Gea is 29. Now, if they wanted to move him on to start Henderson, where would he go? PSG seemed quite content with Navas. Courtois has really stepped up his game over Real Madrid. Ter Stegen's one of the best in the world at Barcelona. These are clubs I'm thinking of that can actually afford his fees, by the way. The other Premier League clubs, with the exception of maybe Chelsea, seem to be happy with their goalkeepers as well. Bayern have Manuel Neuer. I mean, what did they do?
That's the biggest question, that where will he go and who will take him? He will not be sitting around to be number two. We know that. But when they gave him this big contract, big money, it was when Real Madrid come in and he was that world-class goalkeeper. So he was rightly given it and he deserved it. But it has seemed to have come back and bite them now. Has that made him rest on his laurels? Because when you're given this big contract, big money, you know you're secure for a long, long time. He's never had competition, as Danny said earlier, but now someone's come in and really competing with him. He doesn't really know how to handle it. But like you said, the biggest question is who will take him? Will we see this world-class goalkeeper of 2 years ago go into China maybe, where they'll be able to afford him? But I can't see any other Premier League side going for him, and all the big giants of Europe, like you said, are all content with the goalies they've got.
He turns 30 in November, Danny. I mean, it's a long way to go for a keeper in terms of his career as well.
Yeah, there is, but I think when you look at, the money he's on, yes, the contract that they gave him at the time, he was doing exceptionally well and there was nobody challenging him. I don't personally think that will cross Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's mind whatsoever. He didn't give him the contract. He didn't sign him at the club. He wasn't at the club as in terms of being manager at the time. You only have to go to London with Chelsea, Kepa. Frank Lampard had no problems with dropping Kepa because of the simple fact it wasn't his signing. And Solskjaer's got to do what's best for the club, what's best for the team. I hope De Gea can get back to the standards that he was at. I think he was Player of the Year at Manchester United 2 or 3 years in a row, and he's been an exceptional goalkeeper. But he's having a bad time at the moment. And as in terms of the wages that he's on, well, we've seen what United have had to do in the past. You only have to look probably a month or so ago with Sanchez, what they had to do. They had to cut their losses that way. But, they've got competition now. But, I think Henderson will get his opportunity, I would imagine, in the Carabao Cup this Tuesday coming. And then if he does well, if he performs well, then, Solskjaer's got a little bit of thinking to do to decide who's going to start the next game in the Premier League.
Final question on the topic of the goalkeeping situation at Manchester United. It seems that ever since he conceded against Portugal in the World Cup, way back in 2018, he has never been quite the same. It seems to be mistakes of a regular occurrence, doesn't seem to be a short-term issue. Now he has competition, so how long should he be given to prove himself before De Gea loses that spot to Henderson? Darren first, what's the timeline here?
Not very long. I think, as Dan said, if Henderson comes in and does well in the Carabao Cup, questions are already going to be asked. If he comes in, faces a lot of challenges, which he may do, and succeeds with these challenges, questions are going to be asked straight away. So when the manager isn't having you, which potentially Ole Solskjaer won't be having him if Henderson performs, it doesn't last long, and you've got maybe 1-2 games, and then, you know what, he's lucky at the moment that fans are not in the stadium. I think he was lucky today that they weren't in the stadium, because all you need is a stadium full, calling for Dean Henderson as well, and it really puts pressure on the manager.
Same question to you, Danny. How long would be a fair amount of time here? Because it's nothing new when it comes to De Gea. I talk about this, it seems like every week when we're covering the Premier League and covering Manchester United.
I think what you have to do is probably look at Solskjaer and how much does he trust Henderson? Because what I'm sure he wouldn't do is if he decided, right, okay, well, Henderson plays against Luton and does well, he's not going to throw Henderson in for one Premier League game. He's got to know that he's confident and comfortable with Henderson going in goal for the next 10, 12, 15 games, whatever that may be. And if he is confident of that, then we could see it. We could see it sooner rather than later, depending on what happens in next week's game against Luton. And then it's all about the trust. If Solskjaer trusts Henderson, then, you know, I see no reason why he couldn't be looking in the near future to actually give him his opportunity if De Gea, you know, continues to show the nerves that he showed today. Because I must admit, I'll admit, I'll own up to it. Darren said at the start that he would have had Henderson in. And then watching the game today, I saw how unsettled and how nervy De Gea looked. And I've started to go towards that 100% because it's not the goalkeepers in terms of De Gea that we've seen when he's at his best. And now you've got Henderson back at the club, who was one of the best goalkeepers, in the Premier League last season, has now got in the England squad and has, you know, ambitions to be England's #1. He'll be wanting to get his opportunity soon.